I was always the tallest kid in my class, but the biggest impact from that wasn't until the major growth spurt that came around the age of 12. By the time I was in seventh grade, I was over 6 feet tall, and I was bullied big time from kids and teachers. I can remember my seventh grade math teacher, Mr. Wasserman, God bless his soul if he's still alive. He called me to the front of the class one day and made me stand next to the shortest boy in our class, and I just had to stand there while the entire class laughed. And I was humiliated. I can remember walking home from school during Halloween and having eggs thrown at me. And I can remember kids running up to me and jumping up to smack me on top of the head while yelling slam dunk, or calling me the Jolly Green Giant, or Manute Bol. If you haven't heard of him, he was this 7'7" basketball player that wasn't exactly easy on the eyes, if you know what I mean. When all I wanted was to be pretty and girly and dainty. It hurt. And I wasn't a fighter. I was a crier. I took everything to heart. I would cry, but I never felt rage or anger, just this melancholy feeling that kept following me. It was only after that, when I ended up in a private school, when there were so few of us, that bullying was almost impossible. So while there was still this microcosm of your typical high school type drama scenarios, it was on a much smaller, unnoticeable scale, and for me anyway, and I was really able to thrive in high school. I was eventually captain of the basketball team, president of the student government. I'd gotten into theater, I did dance shows. I was literally like Little Miss Royce Moore. And of course I had my crushes, but I was programmed, just like everyone else, to feel stupidly awkward standing next to a boy of average height because my height was so extraordinary. I didn't feel comfortable to be me, ever. So I started looking for love in all the wrong places, because where there was attention, there was a false sense of acceptance. And if a guy was interested in me, that meant that I was worthy. Wow, did I have a long way to go. I was taken advantage of, but I unintentionally allowed it because of my low self-esteem. I discarded relationships that in hindsight were the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I continued going after the type of guys that would make it harder for me to learn self-love and self-acceptance. And so began this very long journey, 2 decades plus in the making, of learning who I really am and what I'm really capable of. I actually had the nerve to ask a guy out for the first time when I was 16, because he was sort of tall, but still not as tall as I was. And he kind of reminded me of the lead singer from Matchbox 20. And yes, he turned me down, but later on, after graduating high school, I'd find myself having sex with him while he snorted lines of coke. Yeah. I thought I was winning because he chose me for his drug-induced fuck buddy. So naive I was. High school was the most intricately beautiful train wreck one could ever imagine. I chased my gay best friend for a substantially ridiculous amount of time while he strung me along. And I would eventually succumb to the mind games he put me through and use that as justification for sleeping with his brother, along with countless others. We were young then, and today, over 30 years later, he's this magical force in my life that can instantly ground me back to the parts of me I don't really want to forget from back then. Back then, on July 27th, 1996, we lost a classmate when he fell asleep at the wheel and crashed his car only blocks away from his house, and right across the street from the very cemetery that he's buried at today. I didn't know it then, but this was a pivotal moment in my life, because it forced me to face life and death in a way that would shape me forever. I spoke at both my 8th and 12th grade graduations at Roycemore. I speak on this time with nostalgia in spite of my growing pains. Pun intended. The blissful ignorance of teenage years perhaps helps me to rewrite my story with more empowerment. Yes, I am the one that chose to go into the bathroom in the basement of my best friend's house with the guy that I had a crush on. But that sweet, blissful ignorance hadn't prepared me for the forced anal sex that occurred. Looking for love. Yep, definitely wasn't in there. I want you to know that I've been there, letting the world outside of me define my self-worth. I would have told myself then how fucking amazing I was. But damn it if I didn't know it yet.